Hello, and welcome to Handled Ish Productivity for the Imperfect, a weekly podcast for those who want to elevate their productivity but are not looking for perfection. I'm your host, Betsy Hayes, and I'm really happy you're here with me in podcast land or on YouTube. This is episode 51. Make a week. Let's try that again. This is episode 51. Make a weekly schedule template. So the semester is about to start and actually starts this week as I'm filming it. And one of my favorite things to do, because I'm a little bit of a nerd, is to put together my new weekly schedule template for the semester. Because my life is, a little bit different from a schedule perspective from semester to semester. I'm doing this fairly frequently, right? So I do it before the fall, before the spring, and then I do it before the summer. Your schedule might not change as much, but it might also be worth it to, consider doing this exercise 3 times a year as well, because you might just want to organize your schedule differently. So the way I put together, or first of all, what is a weekly schedule template? So what I do is I put together a template that is not necessarily an ideal week, but it's a week that I'm able to schedule in all of my responsibilities and the things that I want to do. And what I use the schedule template for is as I start planning my week, and as you know, I do that on Fridays. Hat tip to Laura Vanderkam. And as you also know, I typically will do at least 2 weeks at a time because I love to have a super detailed schedule for the upcoming week, and then a fairly structured schedule for the week after, so I can kind of know what the gaps are and if I need to change anything around, etc. But before I even start planning the week, at the beginning of the semester, I do this weekly schedule template. So what I do is I look at what is a fairly typical week in the upcoming semester. And obviously, first thing, right, I plot in my my hardscape, right, or the things that are, not very movable. And obviously for me, that would be my class times, my office hours, any other regular weekly things or daily things that I have. Right now, I'm still doing physical therapy, so that's got to go on there. Any regular appointments, et cetera, et cetera. So that obviously goes on first because those are the things that I have to work everything else around. My weekly schedule template actually includes an amazing amount of detail because that's what helps me very easily schedule the upcoming weeks. So it has the time that I would like to get up, the time that I'm going to leave for work. I also put, instead of putting, for example, class starts at 12:30 on my weekly schedule template, it'll say 12:15, go to 12:30 class. So that way I make sure that I am keeping those buffers and those transportation windows so that way I don't accidentally schedule something which would lead me to not have enough time to get to something. So I actually build in the transportation piece on my weekly schedule template. I will also put meal times if I'm kind of wanting to do a regular schedule of meal times, something that serves me very well, I have found. In the evenings, I like to look at my evenings and think, okay, well, these are the types of things I would like to do in the evenings this semester. How can I work that in, right? Some things perhaps will happen every week. Like, for example, I like to have one evening a week where I just really process the heck out of email and get caught up. I just know that I'm going to need to dedicate one evening a week to do that. So I pick a day. If there's a couple of other things that maybe don't need to happen every week, I think about that. This semester on Tuesdays, I want to have dinner with my mom a couple times a week or a couple times a month. And so those Tuesdays are going to alternate with doing continuing my house purge, which I talked about the week of my birthday in the fall. So, one Tuesday I'll be dinner with mom, and then the second Tuesday after, or the Tuesday after that will be, giving me a good chunk of time in the evening to work on the house purge. I also look at when I'm going to exercise because we all know that if you don't plan in your exercise, it doesn't happen. Also, when I'm going to do my meal planning, when I'm going to go to the grocery store, because I have found if these things happen at regular times, they are much more likely to happen. And they're also much more likely to happen at a time that really, works for me. So I spent a lot of time thinking about this weekly schedule template at the beginning of the semester. And it's really helpful because then I see, wow, this particular day is really, really busy. So perhaps I don't want to have, significant work project time that day because I probably won't be able to do it. But this particular day has a big, lovely morning that doesn't have any regular appointments. Maybe that can be some real deep work time. So I learn when to plan different types of projects. I love to do my deep work in the morning. That's just when my brain is fresher. And the days that I have lots of classes and lots of meetings, I don't have a lot of project time built in because I know it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to do it. Obviously, as a professor, I need to look at when I'm going to be grading and put in those chunks or one or two chunks a week to make sure that I'm continuing to spend time on that and have time when grading is, the thing that I need to do. Because again, if I don't put in these chunks of time for these things that happen on a regular basis, I have to fit them in the nooks and crannies. And sometimes that will mean, working more evenings than I want to, or working more early mornings than I want to. Sometimes, and this is probably not the best phrase, but if I'm feeling particularly busy or stressed, I will say something like, that's why God invented 5 a.m., which is a little bit of a joke, but it's also, if I really do get to a point where I've got a ton of work, I will, I'm a better person getting up early than staying up late. I'm just not productive if I'm working pretty much past 9 or 9:30. So this is something that you may want to do. I do this on Evernote, so I do it very linearly, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Again, the regular weekly appointments, the things that I want to happen on a regular basis, which doesn't necessarily have to be every week or every day. I obviously, in an ideal world, I would exercise 7 days a week. I have found that that's not practical for me. And so my goal is 5 to 6. And so I plug in exercise times every day, knowing that more than likely I will get 5 or 6 of those accomplished during the week. But again, it doesn't happen unless I really think about when it could happen in my schedule. So you can plot out your days and then you can put in your hardscape and then you can think about, okay, well, when do I want to, regularly do this? Maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's exercise, like maybe it's cooking, maybe it's meal planning, maybe it's grocery store, maybe it's going to your children's activities if that's the season of your life. Maybe it's regular, things with your friends, which is something we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Those are the types of things that are also on my schedule because they're very important to me. And so I want to make sure that A, I don't double book myself, and B, I make sure that they happen. Obviously, in your weekly schedule template, you do not want to have from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed planned out before any extra things happen, right? So your weekly schedule template should definitely not be completely full. And you also need to recognize that, things are going to literally change every week, but your template is going to be a place to start. So what I do when I go to plan the week or two ahead is I start with a schedule template. So I literally cut and paste the template, and then I look at my calendar and I merge the two. So any appointments that are not regular appointments, I will fit in. Any, fun things or social activities that I get invited to, I will figure out how those will fit in. And then I just it's like very much like a puzzle. I have right in front of me the things that are really important to me. And so I try to figure out how to work all of those in. Again, Also, going to bed when I want to go to bed and getting up when I want to get up and not working more than I want to work. And, just doing the things and being really, really conscious of how I'm planning my time just gives me so much peace. And weirdly, it also gives me so much freedom because I know that, the stuff that's important and the stuff that, I'm getting paid to do as part of my job happen. And I also feel comfortable that it's all going to fit. And obviously, I will plan out, a very, very detailed week in advance. And obviously, that week, stuff's going to happen and the puzzle is going to need to be altered. But again, I know what puzzle pieces are necessary, so I'm able to make it all work. Sometimes a puzzle piece completely gets deleted from a week. Maybe I'm not feeling well and I'm not going to be able to accomplish all the things that are on the schedule. So no big deal. I know what things are flexible and what things aren't. And so I rework the puzzle. And then again, I have peace, I have freedom. I know that everything's happening. I get an opportunity, personal or professional, that it is a larger chunk of time than I have in my little wiggle room spots. And so, okay, well, I'd really like to do this thing. What can I adjust in my schedule in order to make that happen? And if I've got a really specific current week and a fairly good handle on the week after, I'm able to do this very, very easily. And again, then I know that it's all going to be okay. The other thing that I have found is, as beautiful and gorgeous as my weekly schedule template is at the beginning of each semester, by about a month in, it's going to look very different because sometimes I might be a little bit ambitious in, when and where I'll be able to accomplish things. And sometimes, a new opportunity will come up and I will have to make room for it on a regular basis. So therefore, stuff gets shuffled around. And that's okay. Literally, the reason to have a weekly schedule template is not because you want to be very rigid with your time. It's so you know where your time is going and where you have the opportunity to do things different with your time and where you don't have the opportunity to do things that are different with your time. One of the things that's been very interesting to me is I have about 3.5 weeks, I think, at this recording of physical therapy, which every time I go, it takes a pretty good chunk of time. And so it's been really fun for me to think about, okay, well, in that after 3.5 weeks, I'm going to have different time slots available. How do I want to use that time? What I want to do. And so I don't have to make that decision right now, but because I know it's coming and I know where those blocks are now, I can kind of think about, it's really fun to kind of explore and experiment, what I want to do with those time slots once they become available to me. So does anyone else in the world do this? Does anyone else make a weekly schedule template? Either periodically throughout the year or once a year or excuse me, whenever. I would love to hear how, other folks organize things. And, whether or not it's useful, if you think this idea might be useful. Again, obviously, I love it. Something I'm very, very fond of. And I can't imagine not doing it because I'm a very busy person. I'm not any busier than any of you. But I do have a lot going on. And as a result, I want to not worry about when I'm going to do stuff. So doing this, helps me be a much happier person. So tune in for next week when we talk about something else on Handle Dish, Productivity for the Imperfect. And until then, please take care. And as you know, what I'm going to say, please be kind to yourself because you are doing way better than you think you are. Trust me. Take care.